So in what ways do you see religious factors shaping, for example, the ongoing Ukraine conflict beyond the obvious Orthodox Church divisions? So how might, let's say, policymakers better incorporate, let's call it religious literacy into their strategic thinking?
That is an excellent question. And that's something that a friend of mine, Douglas Johnston, wrote about that starting in the 1990s. He wrote a couple of great books about this, highlighting what was a real vacuum in State Department and American understanding of how religion should impact their thinking about geopolitics. The same, I think, is true in Brussels, in the EU, and a lot of Western European capitals, where now we have a continent that was founded on Christian tenets, but it has become, to all intents and purposes, a post-Christian society. And that is especially true.
But you don't see that in the United States as much, not in Romania,
no,
for sure.
Not as much, no. But among the elites, it is true, meaning among the people in Foggy Bottom, in the State Department, overwhelmingly, among the people spread throughout the American government, these are, I mean, there may be some people from Iowa in there, but you know what I mean? These are not typical Americans. They're people that go through the schools that I've gone to, but they have a different worldview than I do, quite frankly. And so they've been shaped in a certain way by the Harvards, Yales, Princetons, Stanfords of the world. And they tend to think of anyone who is an adherent to a faith, especially in a devout way, as being somewhat suspicious. And they're especially concerned about applying moral judgments that you have that are informed by your faith to public policy in the public square. And I think that's a huge mistake because, for one thing, they're hypocritical. People that consider themselves secular and think that's a virtue, and they define that secularism as being an absence of faith in the life. Everyone has the right to do that, that's fine. But they overwhelmingly have their own moral compass that they follow. It's not like they're amoral. They have a moral compass they follow. They have moral judgments they form based on a certain value system that they have. And I would define that as a religion by definition. And so they are religiously informed in their public policy judgments. And just because you are a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever, and you bring those judgments to your approach to the public square, does not mean that's a bad thing. Now,
especially a lot of them deal with moral and ethical concern in all the kind of religions. So
yeah. Now it can, any religion, I don't want to get too far into the weeds on this, but any religion can go to extremes. We talked about human nature being the problem, right? We have revelation.
You started by saying that, the evil part of the human nature.
Exactly. So. We have revelation from God.
And in God we trust.
And in
you
God
have
we
that
trust,
kind
yes. Thanks to Dwight Eisenhower, who put that on our currency.
Right.
But we have revelation from God, but then we as humans always screw it up because we're humans, we're flawed human beings. And so yes, religions can take on very negative turns, just like nations can. So to answer your question, bring it back full circle, because we could go down rabbit trails forever on this. Yeah, the nation, any nation, whether it's Romania, whether it's Poland, whether it's Japan, whether it's the United States, whatever, can be shaped in more positive or negative directions. And I think it's a constant job of regenerating the positive, what you call the better angels of your national character.
Oh, that's beautiful.
In order to create the nation that we all want. And I've seen in the short time I've been here, the last week and a half, 2 weeks, some great examples of Romanian people that just love their country, that are good, honest, hardworking people, that are people of faith, that love their country, as they should. And that's exactly the sort of national spirit that I would love to see engendered more strongly in other countries, because I think it needs to a national cohesion also where people look after each other more, because they think they're part of the same community.